Is your toddler playing enough? Is that the weirdest question ever? Playing. Who's worried about playing? What about all the stuff that we're actually worried about, like their language and their potty training, their ABCs, colors, numbers, oh, and the shapes. Don't forget about the shapes. The legitimate stress and anxiety that we have over all these things, and here I am asking if your toddler's playing enough. I'm about to convince you that this question is totally valid. Hello, I'm Cassie from Custom Built Parenthood. I'm a mama to 3 kids, ages 7, 5, and 1, and I get really excited trying to find win-win solutions in parenting. It is the toughest job around, and I definitely don't have all the answers, but I do have some good research and a lot of personal experience, so I just like to chat about things that we are facing as parents. So please subscribe to my channel and hit that bell. If you want to join me, I would absolutely love to have you. So when you think about your toddler's free time, you can't think of it like your free time, a luxury that would be awesome, but is pretty much non-existent, right? Play is a child's work. Have you heard that before? Jean Piaget, who's a major name in the world of child development, he developed the theory of cognitive development, and he said, play is the work of childhood. Many child psychologists and experts out there have agreed or said something similar to this. So why are experts everywhere pointing out that play is so important? Well, in simple terms, play is a fundamental necessity for kids to thrive physically, emotionally, mentally, and socially. So much so that it has been recognized by the United Nations High Commission for Human Rights as a right for every child. So it's pretty legit. The type of play that we're talking about today is unstructured play. What the heck is that? Unstructured play or free play, same thing, is play that isn't organized or directed by adults or older peers, that generally doesn't have a defined purpose or outcome. It's when kids interact with their environment, resources, and the people around them without adult intervention or guidance. Times when they just have freedom to explore, to create, to discover without any predetermined rules or guidelines. They're doing what they dream up all on their own. So last week I talked about starting sports, basically when and how to do that so that both you and your child have a positive experience. And one small point that I ended up making was that a potential downside of starting sports too young with your child is that it takes time away from spontaneous play and free time, which are super important to your toddler's development. So today I am picking 5 unexpected benefits that toddlers experience when we avoid overscheduling them and allow them more time for unstructured play. Then, if you stick around until the end, I have 3 questions that will help you encourage your toddler to play. The first benefit of unstructured play is that kids learn to solve problems. Do you want to hear something super interesting I read recently? So leaders at NASA used to recruit graduates from the best schools with the best grades, but they noticed something. They were not very good at solving problems. So instead, they started to prioritize finding grads, get this, with a strong history of playing or working with their hands throughout childhood and adolescence. It was people who had built things as kids with a strong history of play who were the best problem solvers. The point that they were making in this book that I read this in is that it's really not an exaggeration that free play is becoming an endangered activity for many kids. So are you guys grasping what this free play or unstructured play really is? It might be easier to tell you what it's not. So any and all screen time, organized activities, so sports, music, art, any of that stuff, board or card games with set rules, times when you're telling your toddler what to play or what to draw, what to pretend, none of that is free play. So if we want our toddler to be good at solving problems, we need to give them ample opportunities to play and experiment and build whatever their imagination comes up with. By the way, I'm pulling information from a lot of great books. I will link them all in the description if you're interested in reading more about this topic. So the second benefit of not being overscheduled and having more unstructured play is that there will be less stress in your toddler's life. Today's child has become the unwilling, unintended victim of overwhelming stress, the stress born of constantly rising expectations. That's a quote from The Hurried Child. Do we ever feel like our toddler's good enough? Have they ever finally arrived to a point that we're happy about and can just enjoy wherever they're at instead of just simply rushing them into the next thing? Oh, he's crawling. When do you think he'll start walking? Or she knows her shapes. Isn't that a sign that she's gifted. If they're recognizing these so early, maybe it's time to start working to teach her how to draw a circle. We've touched on this so many times in my videos, that tendency to scrutinize every single thing our kid's doing or not doing, consulting books and timetables as if they're technical manuals, and we panic if our kid seems a bit off schedule. So I wear glasses, obviously. Let's picture that every time we look at our child, we're putting on a special pair of glasses. So you put these on, and on one side, it's an anxious lens, so full of worry, comparison, doubt, and fear. And then the other side is an aspiration lens, full of hopeful aspirations for our kids' future success in life. I don't know about you, but when I put these glasses on, I usually don't feel too great. It kind of makes me feel bad about myself and my kid. It makes me feel stressed and worried. There's really not any positive feelings that are real and rooted in the reality of right now. These glasses distort how we're seeing our child and honestly just paints everything that they are doing in a certain light. So what would happen if we just decided to take these glasses off? Deciding to see our child for who they really are and just happily observe their development as it naturally unfolds. What a gift to give our toddler, as opposed to the stress of constantly rising expectations. Honestly, your heart goes out to the toddler in that situation, but my heart also goes out to the parent who probably has an ulcer by the time their kid is 1. Just take off the glasses, people. It's a win-win. So they learn to solve problems and enjoy less stress. The third benefit is that your toddler will have better self-esteem. Your toddler's self-esteem goes hand in hand with the stress that we just talked about. As they're feeling pressured by progression, they're also likely to feel that they're never enough. So Alvin Rosenfeld, who was the former head of child psychiatry at Stanford University, and he's the author of The Overscheduled Child, he said, good intentions aside, parents think they need to always self-sacrifice their time and money for the better development of their child. But what they are doing in this is sending a message that their kids are in constant need of self-improvement, that they need to always learn new skills, and that's undermining the child's self-esteem. So parents think that they're helping their kids by giving them all these opportunities to learn and progress, but it's this very thing that's sending a never enough message to their kids. We're taking control of their life, which undermines the confidence that they might have in themselves and their own interests and abilities. We want our toddler to feel in control of their own life as much as possible, and we definitely want them to have a positive opinion of themselves and to be comfortable in their abilities and their limitations. So the fourth benefit is that your toddler will be less bored. Believe it or not, overscheduling your toddler leads to more boredom. Research has found that kids who have grown up going from one activity to the next really just come to expect that they will be constantly entertained and occupied all the time. They have never learned to use their inner resources to keep themselves busy. Have you ever realized that life is so go, 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 go all the time that the second there's some downtime, nobody knows what to do with themselves? At my son's last Well Child Check, it was actually really interesting. His pediatrician told me about a conversation that he had had with another doctor there. The doctor had approached him recently with concerns about screens being the built-in babysitter. So even for just a 5-minute wait in the waiting room, the majority of parents just hand over the screen without any conversation or interaction. And this was worrisome to this doctor, obviously. And the reason why the pediatrician was telling me about this conversation was basically giving me a compliment, saying that our family was the one that came to mind who had it figured out. Now, you guys, we do not have things figured out. That would be the last thing I would ever describe our family as. But we don't do screens, really. We do an occasional family movie. So interesting conversations and art projects are just what we do at home as well as when we're out and about. And it takes a lot, like probably a couple hours for my kids to get to the point of needing a change in scenery. They're just always deep involved in whatever, pretending, imagination, observing, talking, coloring, all of those things just totally keep themselves occupied. In fact, there is never a day, really, that there's enough time in the day to play everything or make everything that they're wanting. So Back to the quote, a large reason our kid is bored is that they've come to expect that they will be entertained all the time. So we have to allow them to learn to use their inner resources to keep themselves busy. So if there's anyone out there looking for a solution to your kid entertaining themselves, it's this: more time for unstructured play when they're just expected to dream something up and then do it. So problem solving, less stress, higher self-esteem, less bored. The fifth benefit is that they will have greater family relationships. We all know that we need to give something our time and energy in order for it to be strengthened, right? So a skill we're wanting to learn takes practice, muscles take exercise, and yes, relationships need time and attention. So if we value our relationship with our child, our actions need to reflect that. We need to be having meals together, reading together, doing house chores together, talking, and just experiencing daily connection. I do have a whole video on quality time, the easy way, that I will link, but the idea is just that we can experience quality time in all of the little parts of the day, but it does mean that we need to be having those little moments every day. So those are the 5 benefits. So all that's left is to let your toddler play. Yeah, not so fast, right? It's way easier said than done. As always, when we get a lot of good information, it's really easy to get overwhelmed and just kind of ambiguous as to what to really do about it. So let's take a shot at making it more manageable. It's just really going to be up to you to look at your personal situation and see what adjustments might need to be made. So I do have 3 questions to steer you in the right direction. As far as where to start, you can tackle them in order or just pick the one that you think will have the biggest impact, whatever you want to do. First, you can ask yourself, is your toddler overscheduled? They might be irritable a lot or seem overtired or be having problems sleeping, or you might simply just look at your schedule and realize you're gone a lot and out and about too often. Either way, if the answer is yes, your toddler's overscheduled, just identify an adjustment that you can make. It could be dropping an enrichment activity. Maybe you decide that each child in your home only gets to do one thing at a time, whether that's music or a sport, just one thing per kid. Or it could be saying that you're only going to do errands on a certain day or a certain couple of days. Or maybe weeks are just packed, there's nothing to do about it. Just free up the weekend a little bit more so that you can all be home and have some extra downtime. I know it is so hard. We all have a ton going on, but it is a choice. We are going to say no to overscheduling so we can say yes to all the benefits that we've talked about. So next I want to ask you to ask yourself, how much screen time is your toddler getting? We're talking about toddlers, and the hard and fast rule is that kids ages 2 to 5 should not have more than 1 hour of screen time a day, and that parents should be watching with them. So just try to honestly add up all the little pockets in the day when your child is looking at screens. Playing games, watching something, video chats, advertisements, whatever, it all counts. So commit right now to not exceed that 1 hour, and if at all possible, maybe aim for a little bit lower. There are a plethora of negative effects of screens, but the researchers' words were the more parents can keep their children off screens in early childhood and let them interact with people in the world, the better. The last question to ask yourself is, what are you going to do to encourage unstructured play? So it's really worth taking a look at the items in your space and making sure that you have some open-ended options. If you haven't heard that before, it just means things that encourage imaginative play. So things like magnet tiles, blocks, Duplos, animals, people figures, play scarves, vehicles, a cardboard box. I mean, there are a lot of simple options, and just have some basics. So if you're feeling especially motivated, you might decide to box up a lot of your toddler's toys, not to get rid of or anything, just store them somewhere, have a couple open-ended options out, and just see what happens. With the new screen-free downtime that's hopefully in their schedule now, as well as having an inviting space, your toddler may surprise you with their ability to entertain themselves. If it's still kind of a struggle though, just spend some extra time with them in that new space and with those new items, just modeling how you can use your imagination to play with those items. So I do know that all of this is work, and realistically, we don't always have the bandwidth to take it on, right? So just give yourself some grace and know that it doesn't all have to happen right now. You're taking the time to watch this video and gain some new knowledge, which is a huge all by itself. So just let it simmer, and slowly you'll probably start naturally making some adjustments, by just being aware of what your toddler needs. You really are doing amazing. Keep up the good work, and we'll see you next time.